Math and literacy centers are one of the best ways to differentiate instruction in your classroom and meet your students' academic needs exactly where they are. However, if you do not have a clear system in place, your centers could be chaos. While there are so many reasons to use math and literacy centers, setup is essential. The best way to set up centers is to make sure that you have a clear framework in place and a system that is going to keep it stinking simple. In today's video, I'm going to share with you my Easy Centers framework, and I'm also going to help you see 3 common mistakes that teachers make and 3 ways that you can fix them in your math and literacy centers. Stay tuned. Welcome back, Educational Rockstars. I'm Farah from Farah Henley Education, where I strive to bring you actionable tips and strategies and simple systems that actually work so that you can finally teach and have the biggest impact on your students' learning in your classroom. If you're new here, be sure and hit that subscribe button and click that bell so that you get notified when I go live or upload a new video here on the channel. Now, you might be running math and literacy centers in your classroom, but you also might be sitting back and looking at your centers and thinking they are chaos. Chances are, if you have chaos in your math and literacy centers, you are missing one of 3 key components in your math and literacy centers framework. Today, I want to share with you my Easy Centers framework that has 3 simple components that all math and literacy center systems have got to have. Yes, I said all. Now, the first component that your math and literacy centers have got to have is clarity. And that clarity is going to come from making sure that your center activities are clear, that the students know exactly what they should be doing and what they should be working on and where they should be working on them. I know a lot of teachers like to have choice in their centers, and I love giving my students choice in their learning. However, there are certain times in the classroom where choice just wasn't an option, because the reason I should be doing learning centers is so that I can teach in small groups. And when I'm using learning centers for that purpose, my centers are review. And what's most important during my center time is what's going on in my small groups. And because of this, I need to make sure that my center rotations and my system has clarity, which means my activities need to be clear, the directions need to be clear, they need to follow predictable patterns, activities that my students have seen before, and nothing is left to chance. My students don't need to be confused about what they are working on, where they're working on it, and they don't need to be confused by the types of activities. Now, some common mistakes that I see teachers make with regard to clarity is they will use center activities that have too many moving parts. For example, they might try to use a board game as a center activity. Board games are great for using in the classroom, but they're not great center activities. There are too many moving pieces. It takes too long to set up. There's too much to get lost. There's actually too much to clean up when you're trying to run a system and rotation that works like a well-oiled machine. Now, the second component that your math and literacy centers must have is function. And in order to function, you need a few things. Your students have got to know exactly where they should be working and exactly where they go next in the center rotation. Don't leave anything to chance. Don't change it up. If your blue group starts at center 1 on Monday, they should start at center 1 on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and so on. By having a simple rotation system where students know exactly where they start and exactly where they end, trust me, your centers are going to function a lot better. Now, the next component to function is making sure that your students have everything they need in the center itself. I know teachers like to use supply stations and have a way for students to get up if they're in a center and they need a supply to go get manipulatives and so forth. But really and truly, over the 20 years I've been using math and literacy centers, what I have found is the best practice is to make sure that everything they need for that center is actually in that center, because this is going to eliminate students roaming and wandering around the classroom and causing interruptions for you at your small group as well as other students working in centers. Make sure that they have everything they need right there in the center activity box. Now, a third part of making sure that your centers have function is making sure that your students know exactly what to do when they have an issue. I like to call this systems for common interruptions, because we know that there are going to be times when your math and literacy centers are interrupted. For example, there's a fire drill, or maybe somebody just needs to go to the bathroom. Maybe somebody got sick. I need a crayon, I need a pencil. Now, if you've made sure that your students have all the supplies they need in the activity in the center box, then that's going to eliminate that distraction. But you being interrupted at your table because a student needs to go to the bathroom, that is something that happens a lot. So I suggest that you have a system in place for those students going to the bathroom or who need to go to the bathroom. For example, my students used a teddy bear, or they used a hand sanitizer bottle that they would go get and they would put in their center, so that at a glance I could look up and know exactly who was gone from a center activity. But making sure that you have systems in place for these common interruptions at your table is critical in order for your math and literacy centers to function properly. Now, the third component to having successful math and literacy centers that are not chaotic is making sure that you are consistent. Consistency is key. Now, there are a few things you can do to help yourself be consistent with your centers. But when I say consistent, I mean consistent. I mean running math and literacy centers every single day, no matter what. Even if you know that your math and literacy centers are going to be interrupted that day, you still need to run math and literacy centers. Running centers for even 2 minutes per rotation is going to help your students with the muscle memory that they need to develop that system in place for your math and literacy centers. And you are going to want them to have that muscle memory so that when they come to centers every single day, it is like they could do it in their sleep and they don't even need a chart on the wall, or they don't even need your instruction. This is center heaven. But the only way you're going to get there is through practice. And practicing your centers, being consistent, regardless of whether or not you have time to do an entire rotation of centers or not, is going to be key. Another thing that can help you maintain consistency in running math and literacy centers every single day is to be prepared. And you need to be prepared by having your centers done ahead of time. Now, for me, that looked like having a month of centers done at a time, and I could keep those in iris boxes so that I could then put them into my rotations and easily have that box out where I could switch centers out every week, and I didn't have to worry about trying to come up with activities for my centers. Now, in order to put all of that together, I had a box for every single month and math and literacy centers that followed those predictable patterns and was able to have those at my fingertips. In order to do that, I had to have that stuff prepared ahead of time, and I had to have a go-to place that I could get activities. Now, I'm going to leave some links down in the description below for my math and literacy centers that I used in my K-5 classrooms. We have them in printable and digital. They're the exact centers that I used in my classrooms. You can go check those out in my shop. But I'm also going to leave a link for you to check out the Learning Centers Made Easy membership. This membership is currently on a wait list, depending on when you're watching this video, but you can go check it out and you can get on the wait list for the next time that the doors open. This membership is an amazing way to stay consistent with your centers and know that you are going to have center activities that are going to be predictable and help with function, clarity, and consistency in your math and literacy centers. So click the link in the description down below and go check that out. Now, centers have so many great functions and things that they can be used for in your classroom. If you can keep it stinking simple, you can make sure that your math and literacy centers are running like clockwork. Making sure that you have clarity, function, and consistency inside your math and literacy center system is going to ensure that your students get the most out of their small group learning time. Now, if you're looking for more tips, strategies, and simple systems to take back into your classroom to make your teacher life easier, check out the videos on your screen. Thanks for watching, and keep being educational rock stars.